Hey everyone, St. Adam here. Due to the graphic nature of this video and the subject matter that we're covering, I'm going to consider this a disclaimer, trigger warning, because of what we are going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about victims of domestic abuse. We're going to be talking about a charity that works with victims of human trafficking. This will not be played as a comedic video. So anyone that was expecting the usual, smart jokes from me, ranting by Chris, there won't be any of that in this video. We're also, because of this, going to disable the comment section just to avoid anything that would bring shame to anyone that's been victims of this. This is the only video that we will be doing that for. I thank you for your understanding, and please enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adam Chris Show. I'm St. Adam.
And I'm Chris Malice.
And with us today we have...
My name is Catherine Fox. I'm a public health nurse.
And Chris, what are we here to discuss today?
Human trafficking, I believe.
Yes, Catherine over here works for 1DevineLine2Health. It's a charity that helps people, victims of both domestic abuse and sex trafficking. So let's just get right into this. How did this organization start?
So this organization is run by a woman named Esther Flores. She is also a nurse. She used to work in major hospitals and then decided she needed to be in the trenches, is what she calls it. So she started 1DevineLine2Health in 2015, and most of her work is done in the Hilltop area of Ohio, Columbus.
All right. You said she started in 2015. Does she have just one location she works at, or are there like multiple locations?
So she has one drop-in center right now, and that is where she is most of the time. They're open one day a week right now, where people can come in, take a shower, have a meal. But she also has some other locations around Columbus for women to live to sort of start getting their lives back together. And we don't disclose the location of those areas because we need them to stay private so they're safe from,
Potential
people
retaliation.
who help them get into this situation. Right.
Oh, that's very understandable. Well, when we're talking about victims, what's the most common age ranges of people who are most likely at risk?
We generally see late teens, early 20s is the most common, but there have been as young as 12. And then, unfortunately, you don't get a large amount of older people because they just don't necessarily live that long with that kind of lifestyle.
Ooh.
Okay, what factors would play into someone becoming a victim?
So we do find that it's very closely related to the opioid epidemic. Ohio is interesting. It's actually, there's major highways that run through that allow opioids to filter through Columbus area, and these women will generally be hooked on opioids, and then that is used as an avenue to exploit them. And unfortunately, that's kind of where we get stuck.
Right, I do remember there was an episode of Drugs Inc. on what was it, MSNBC, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if you've ever watched it, but they had an episode that dealt with Columbus itself.
Really?
Showing like the avenues that some of these dealers take and like their drop-off points. Like one was Tuttle Mall. Like they would pull up a van into Tuttle Mall and then like distribute it to the dealers, and like most of it would go over to places like the Hilltop and that area is where a lot of that would be stored.
Right, and when you're at Tuttle Mall, you don't think that that's going on.
Right, I mean everyone's going in there to buy the latest Funko Pop from Hot Topic. You're not thinking of the van parked way out in the back.
Yeah, it's a fun family place, but it does get exploited for these purposes. So.
It's the last place I guess anyone would ever think of. Okay, so this takes place in all through Ohio. What are some of the key locations or cities that this happens in, or maybe key drop-off points, or just cities that are crucial to this?
So generally, Columbus, you have a larger population. Houses are closer together. You get some, unfortunately, very low-income areas. The Hilltop is where she does most of her work. She actually has a vehicle called the Love Bug. It's a big red truck that she actually goes to these places, and she will pick people up off the streets, do wound care, give goodie bags with water, crackers, tuna, toothbrushes, because they're unfortunately lacking most of these like very vital things.
Is there any like specific like events that happen in Columbus that could be an area where some of this stuff goes on to cut through at all?
Unfortunately, we have one coming up. The Arnold is known for it being a hot spot of that kind of activity. Unfortunately.
Wow.
You get people driving through on our highways, and any major event really is likely to have these things happen. The cars will blend in with the other vehicles, and they go unnoticed. So,
Right. I would think that they wouldn't advertise, what they're driving too much. Obviously, you said Esther would know what someone who's going through this would look like.
absolutely.
To the average person on the street, like, would we be able to tell, or would it be just to?
There are some signs that you can look for, and I can give you guys a good a link for a website for signs to look for, so your viewers will know what they can look for in their
Okay.
daily lives.
All right, we'll put that in the description.
Most of the victims that are being trafficked, are they U.S. citizens or are they coming from outside of the United States mostly?
Most of them are U.S. citizens, but we don't find that they're all from central Ohio. They're from all throughout the country. Yeah, like some of the smaller states, you'll get people traveling through here on our highways. It's all around those highways where we get the traffic through, and then people just get stuck here, and then they don't have any family, no contact with anybody who can give them any support, and it just makes it easier for them to become stuck in these cycles.
And there are specific highways that these people use?
Yeah, we say 71, 70, and 23 are the culprit highways.
So it's going from all the way from Cincinnati all the way up to Cleveland.
Yeah, up to Detroit, and then they can go all the way up to Canada.
Okay, has Esther or even this the 1DevineLine2Health organization faced any backlash from the public or any other groups?
Well, a lot of people don't necessarily have sympathy for these women, and that's why she has made it her mission, because people think, oh, they use drugs, they aren't worthy of assistance. So there are some people who are not necessarily fond of spending money on these kind of women, and children and trans people, and it's just not something that they feel is worth their time, because they don't consider these to be worthwhile women, unfortunately.
So you brought up women, children, but it's all people, all different kinds of people that can become victims of this. You said members of the trans community.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're the most likely to be physically assaulted
Really?
as well.
Wow.
Just because of people's opinions about that kind of lifestyle.
Has there been any arrests with people that have been involved with the trafficking rings at all?
We don't work hand in hand with law enforcement. Often law enforcement has kind of the same opinion as some of your average Ohioans about these type of women, like frequent arrests, that sort of thing. They're actually don't have the greatest relationship with Columbus police.
Okay.
I guess she's just a little bit too vigilante.
Oh.
Okay. How does the 1DevineLine2Health help the victims exactly?
So she provides wound care. There's abscesses, unfortunately, is something you see a lot in the population that uses a lot of opioids, and meals, showers, sometimes that can brighten their day significantly. You couldn't imagine how hard it is to get a shower when you don't necessarily have a home or a safe place. She does offer, so there's a lot of women who are trying to get out of this cycle because they have children, and they're trying to make the best life for their children. So she offers a place for them to stay. She has a wonderful little kids room. Kids can play dress up and just kind of avoid the kind of stress that they're used to. She also created the butterfly garden in the hilltop for kids in the neighborhood to go play. So they have a welcome place in the community that was safe for them.
Okay, and for anyone that's not familiar with what that is exactly.
So it's like a garden that she set up in the hilltop, and they release butterflies. They try to make it a good place for butterfly habitats because it's kind of hard to find in the city.
I would imagine so. Now, a lot of people, like when they think like sex trafficking, they probably think of like some dark warehouse and women just like locked in cages. But you said some of these women have kids, so are some of these women being forced to work out of like their own apartment, their own home, or would it be more like what you'd see in a Hollywood movie?
You could definitely get a mix of both. There definitely are people brought up from other states who are completely confined, and then there are others who have their own home. Typically the home does belong to somebody else, so often they're not allowed to accumulate enough wealth to be self-sufficient, and that's one of the methods that is used for control.
Okay.
Is there, other than that and the drugs, is there any other methods that these traffickers would use for control?
Well, we did mention children, so they could threaten the woman with physical violence. They could threaten the children with physical violence. Fortunately, I haven't been in contact with these kind of people very often. We're just with the victims, and we don't have to deal with those types quite so often. They're good at staying away from areas like ours. Yes.
What are some warning signs that a woman or somebody could be a potential victim of trafficking?
So some of the things we look for is if they're malnourished, they have somebody speaking for them, and they're not allowed to say their own opinions. You can look for if they don't have a lot of personal possessions, because typically they're not allowed to have anything that's their own. And you might see them frequently at hotels. You might see that they're avoiding eye contact. May seem like they don't really know how to speak English is a possibility, and they just have these rehearsed things that they practice saying over and over again.
Okay. How many women have you guys helped, your organization?
So we have seen 1,500.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is just about, approximately, of course. And that's just through one night a week.
Oh, wow.
So once our full center is open, I imagine our numbers will increase drastically.
I was reading of a situation where a woman felt that she was being followed and potentially spotted with her kids to be trafficked. How would somebody be able to spot that type of situation if they are potentially in it, and how can they get out of that situation?
So don't be afraid to call the police is really the number one piece of advice. If you feel that you are in danger in any way, the police aren't going to get mad that it was a false alarm. Just don't be afraid to call the police. Don't panic. Don't, if you're driving, don't start speeding away, because that's going to clue them in that they know that something is up. And you want to stay in public, keep as many people around as possible. That way there's more witnesses, and that's how you'd stay safe. And trust your instinct. If you feel like you're not safe, you trust yourself.
Okay.
And you say they can come there, it's almost like a shelter. Has there ever been any issues where someone has shown up to try to get someone out of the shelter or anything?
Yes, that does happen. If they find out where the person they are trying to keep control of is staying, they can come. And the law enforcement will help with that situation. But they tend to associate these women with, their arrests and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Now, anyone watching this, if they want to help, how can people help?
So one of the most important things is just financial support, which, as I mentioned, is kind of difficult to get because a lot of people don't feel like these women are worth their money. It's easier for them to see, oh, this is a woman of the streets, and they don't really think about where they came from, how they got there, the type of control that's being used, the mental health issues that are involved. So financial donations are hard to come by. We were actually part of a group recently, and we raised $125,000 for Esther, and she's using that to create another drop-in center that's open 24/7. So that way there's a place for these people to come, and it's not just on a specific day when we can be open. So you can also let people know about the human trafficking hotline, and that I can give your viewers that number right now if you'd like.
Yeah, if
Let's
you'd
go
like.
ahead.
We'll also put it in the description, but
Okay.
it doesn't hurt to.
Yes. So this is 1-888-373-7888, and then texting is easier for a lot of people, so that's 233-733 is the number that you text. And you can give tips if you have information or concerns about anybody, and if you are a victim yourself, you can find help through this number.
And that's great. That we do have these tools out there to help people. Having worked with it, do you find that a lot of people will take help, or is it like one of those things where like maybe they're ashamed to ask for help and it's kind of like a struggle to even get them to get help?
I think Esther has the advantage in that she's a nurse, so she can come at them from a clinical supportive perspective, and that really helps her approach this kind of population. But generally they're just thrilled to have somebody who actually cares about them, because most people don't.
And Esther, so she's based right now just central Ohio.
Right.
Was she, like, if she could, would she branch out to even other states?
Oh, she would. Yeah, that's her motto. She wants to heal the whole world with love. So she has also done some work at the United States-Mexican border, helping the families there as well. Same sort of care, just she wants to make a giant center where men, women, everybody can go to, and she's doing all these things with the money that's provided to her. She uses it very well, directly supports the people that need the most help.
Well, that's awesome. Other than like the human trafficking hotline and the text number, if there's someone that wanted to contact them, I mean, what are some other ways they can do it?
They do have a website, and that is the first letter or number of the name. So it's 1DevineLine2Health.com, and I'm sure you guys can link that.
Oh yeah, we will definitely link it in the description.
Yeah, and she has tons of information and avenues to help as well. It's a really good. She's got everything set up perfectly. She's a very efficient lady.
Well, that's cool.
She does so much good in this community.
I know there are like a lot of people that are more comfortable like social media stuff. Is there a Twitter for this or a Facebook?
She has a Facebook.
Okay.
She does have a Facebook.
Okay, well, we'll link that in the description below as well. And, while we're talking about Ohio and the subject, where does Ohio stand when it comes to trafficking?
So there are different sources that they say different things, but the most reliable number I've found is that we are fourth in the country. Fourth in the country for human trafficking, which is scary.
It is
not something
very
that
scary.
you think about day to day.
Well, I mean, yeah, I open up Facebook and I see so many, like, teen gone missing, young lady gone missing.
There is so many, and there's a good chance that this is what's happened to those people, unfortunately.
Since Ohio's number 4, I'm sure some people may wonder what would be the number 1 area that this happens in the nation?
Most recent sources I've seen, Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any like warning signs that you know of that if vulnerable people are in a position where they could be snagged by traffickers or anything like that they can be aware of?
So I haven't personally met anybody who was involved in the process this way, but that doesn't mean that isn't something that happens. I would say never be afraid to reach out to, like, if you're in a store, reach out to the management. If don't be afraid to call somebody, let them know when you're planning to be somewhere, when you're planning to be back, and if you don't show up, they know where you were and who you were in contact with. That's one helpful thing.
Okay.
Well, there you have it. 1DevineLine2Health, probably one of the best programs I've heard of here recently. And I urge all of you to check them out, see what you can do to help. And if you know anyone that needs help, please refer them to this.
All right.
I, would like there to be a day where, programs like this weren't necessary, but we're not there.
No.
I do really appreciate you guys taking on this issue, because most people it's not something they think about or even know about. And if they do find out about it, these women aren't a priority for most people, and it's a shame. So thank you for caring about this issue.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you for coming on.
out and talking about it. I mean, it's good to get, you have the knowledge. A lot of people need this knowledge to, know how to approach this. Like you say, some people kind of don't want to acknowledge it because it's a problem. Maybe they think it'll never affect them.
Right.
But like you said, anyone can really be at risk for this.
They really can. And I don't know, it's something you really have to talk about too. And I'll make sure that I give you all of the info and resources that I have so you can spread it out to your viewers.
Okay.
And I urge any of you on Twitter, contact the channel, contact me. When Chris gets his officially set up, contact him. Let's have this discussion. Let's try to get that information out there.
And spread the word around all over
Yes.
social media.
Usually at the end of our videos, we like to recommend something to check out. And I just recommend just checking this out and educating yourself on this topic. What about you?
I agree with you.
And do you have anything that you might want them to check out that we haven't discussed today? Usually at the end of these videos, you recommend checking something out. Something usually, we think this is worth checking out or this relates to the video. I just recommend checking out this website that is set up for the 1DevineLine2Health, or even just educating yourself on this issue. Chris, you got anything that you...
No.
Okay. Catherine?
Oh, I agree. Education is the number one weapon we have against these sort of things.
Okay. Well, if you like this video, I please urge everyone to share this video. I mean, if you like it, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe. But more than anything, share this video with everyone you can. Let's get this information out there. And follow us on our social media pages, on Twitter, on Facebook. And from the Adam and Chris Show, I'm St. Adam.
I'm Chris Malice.
And we bring to you...
Catherine Fox.
Have a good one, everyone.